I travel a lot for work, and when I'm not filming, I tend to go home to the family. And I really don't do many of these things. I really don't. But more and more as I've got older in life, I'm trying to listen to this a little more and to follow it. And I don't know, it's not an accident I'm here today. I've felt it. It's been the same with this book, you know.
Yeah. Good man.
Like Brian said, my goal, I want every single person on this planet to know the story of our Lord and Savior and how it changes us from the inside to the out for the better. I don't want them to learn about religion and like the fluff. I want them to learn how to connect with people again. And you know what? Not many people read the Bible. If you travel a little bit further, like I know for many people here, I find reading hard. I really do. And we know stories, you know, you might know the Nativity or the Crucifixion or the Good Samaritan. And bear in mind, you're people mainly of faith. You know, you go wider, nobody's read the Bible, really. And more importantly, nobody really knows the true story of this guy, Jesus, who was more radical, revolutionary, free fun, whose main accusation against him from the Pharisees and the religious elite was that this guy's a glutton and a drunkard. It fit in pretty well, and we're like, right. But you know what? That was their accusation. You know, we don't see that Jesus. We see the sanitized, kind of nice version. And I know you guys live and breathe the other part of that, and thank God for that. That's why I wanted to start it here, light the fire with people who get it. And this book is just that. It's telling the straight story, the real story. As I think you said to me, you texted me, you went, I wasn't prepared for this. This is like Tom Clancy has been told to write the Jesus story. And I thought, I'll take that. Anyway.
Yeah, I guess anybody could write a book of faith or Jesus. Anybody could. But I read it. It comes from a deep place within you. I mean, so much so I was reading going, wait a minute. I'm pretty good at the Bible. You know, wait a minute, I haven't heard, and I had to do some research, like, man, never thought of that. Checked out again and again. You're coming from a really deep place. We were talking about collisions earlier, and your book really shows this, like, this collision that Jesus has between, he is an adventurer, and yet he's a lover. I mean, those aren't the words that are in your book, but there's these constant collisions. I mean, God is one, yet God is three. God is spirit, yet Jesus came and took on flesh. These collisions keep happening all the time, and they confuse us. And you said something I took notes on. You talked about, I believe. How did you put it? I believe, I don't have faith. How did you say? You said something about doubt. Oh, doubts. It was doubt. Jesus says, he was interacting with somebody who said, I believe, help my unbelief. Wait, do you believe? Or do you not believe? Like, wait, do you believe the guy got healed in an ear, or do you not believe? Like, you can have both those things. It's the collision where the faith is, and I think that's what you meant with the faith and doubt. You said your faith would be a thing without doubts?
It's easy to believe in this moment because I've just seen a man who couldn't hear. It doesn't work like that. You know, that is not normal. That is supernatural. You give me a better explanation. I believe because I've seen it. But then I go home, and it's a week passes, and I like dealing with crap all day and like difficult things, and you know I read something bad that's happened in some church somewhere, and then I start to question myself, and like it's been life-changing to realize that is all okay. It is part of being part of the human race, and here's the thing: it's part of what the disciples experienced. I mean, if I had seen Jesus walk across on the water towards me in a storm with my own eyes, and I stepped out of that boat and walked on the water to him, and he had held me. This isn't like I heard of somebody that had their leg healed in Africa. If I'd done that, I would believe. Until a month later, when I heard that rooster crow 3 times. Courage, you know, faith takes courage. Doubt erodes our courage, but it's part of life. It's why connection and fellowship is so important. It's the coal in the fire. You take the coal out, and in 5 minutes it goes black. And you put it back in, and it starts to glow again. I don't go to church for sermons or music, much as I love the odd sermon and music. I go for connection. I go to put the coal back in, because I know in a half an hour I'm back into life, and the next week's going to be hard. But what I'm saying is that don't be ashamed or embarrassed by the doubts. The greatest had doubts. Get this, I'm going to tell you a story now that will blow your mind. John the Baptist, okay? Jesus said about this man, he is the greatest prophet to have ever walked the earth. Not Moses, not Elijah, these great men on mountains and beards, but this ruffian who lives in the woods, eats locusts, eats honey, and everyone thinks is crazy. There has never been a man as great as this, Jesus said. And yet, if anyone knew Jesus, it was him. So much so that when he was in the belly of his mum, and they were cousins and best friends, and they'd hang out, John the Baptist would kick. When Mary walked in with Jesus inside, they said, he kicked. It's like, this is the guy. If anyone knew who this Messiah was, it was John the Baptist. And yet, when John the Baptist was in the dungeon awaiting torture and death and beheading on his own for weeks, it might have been months, they speculate, on his own in Herod's palace dungeons, starving, beaten. And he got a chance through the slit, they think, of one of the windows to speak to his disciples. You know what he said to them? Get a message to Jesus and just ask him, are you really the one? If John the Baptist can have a broken moment of doubt, how much more can we have? It is okay. We are not the sum of our doubts. We are the sum of the other side of our faith.
Yeah. Another collision is Jesus is God and he's a human. He's fully God, he's fully man at the same time. It's a collision. They don't go with one another. But there's the power. Like we were talking as we were going through the prayer tent, and you like that prayer tent over there. It was pretty cool, huh? We were going through prayer tent and the beer, and I was saying that's one of the collisions. What makes Man Camp unique is people don't want to put together beer and prayer. And yet it's part of the power of a certain type of guy that's there. So it's those collisions, right? So do you think that Jesus, as he's God, but as he's man, do you think Jesus had doubts?
I think he was so much more human than any of us can realize. Again, we come out of this 2,000 years of culture of he's dressed in white robes and he's meek and mild and nice. But he was wild and unpredictable. And for sure got angry and for sure sweated blood. It's a medical condition in that Garden of Gethsemane where his disciples said they saw pinpricks of blood emerge. It's a physical symptom of stress and torture. It's a hormonal response. He knew exactly. He'd been telling them for months and years what lay ahead. Of course he was terrified. Even little touches like when he walked past that fig tree on his way into Jerusalem. And it's the start of the week, his last week. If you're ever pre-game nerves, it's now walking up towards seeing this huge city, huge Roman garrison, stone walls. He knows exactly what's happening in 7 days. And he's hungry, he wants breakfast, and he sees a fig tree, and he goes over to get some fruit off it, and there's no fruit on it. And he goes, and he curses the fig tree. It's the only time he curses. He says, nothing will ever grow from you again. And the disciples notice the next day this thing. It's gone, dust. It's like, he's so human. The last thing on his humanity that, again, I didn't know, and again, that through the research of this book, my life has been changed. I got to read the Bible cover to cover 3 times with a friend. Quite hard work at times, I'm not going to lie. And by the way, one thing I learned doing that, there's only one command in the Bible that's repeated 365 times. It's the most commanded thing in the Bible, 365 times. You know what it is? Yeah, do not fear. Be brave. Be courageous. Epic. Anyway, the last moment of doubt. Jesus started at 30. So from him getting lost or left in the temple at 12 to 30, everyone's always like, what happened? What was he doing? And again, nobody knows. But my conjecture is he was delaying the inevitable. He knew the minute he starts doing miracles, this time bomb is ticking. It will be around 3 years, and it will lead in my torture, humiliation, rejection from God, and death. I, too, would be delaying it. Delaying it. And then there's this first miracle. You remember the first miracle? It's at Cana. This wedding, like, water to wine. He was one of us. But he didn't want to do it because he knows when I begin starting doing miraculous things, the world is going to change. It's hard to go back. And his mum sees the problem, and sometimes it takes a mother to say fly, to say to their son to fly. It's your time. Come on. It's okay. It's okay. And she says, they need your help. And he goes, stop it, I'm dancing with my friends, I'm having fun. It is not my time. It's almost like he's repeated this phrase 1,000 times to his mum before. It runs off the tongue. Mum, it's not, stop. It's not my time. And it's the only time in the Bible where you hear Mary ignore Jesus. And she looks at the servants. You can imagine the smile on her face. And she goes, do whatever he says. She's got him. She knows it's his time. And he goes, fill them. And the journey begins. The journey begins. Maybe he had doubts.
Last question. It's great. This is rich. It's good. It's so good, too, because you have no idea what I'm going to ask. Love this. So he's not necessarily having doubts, maybe not. Having doubt isn't a sin, but he's for sure conflicted at a bunch of times in his life. The thing in your book that I'm still chewing on, which is why you kept giving these things, I'm like, I gotta chew on this more. I never considered before him crossing the Jordan River after he got baptized. And that's really significant because we have a lot of guys in here who are going to cross their own Jordan River. Like right now they're crossing, they're going to cross it tomorrow, and they may not even know what I'm talking about. So just talking about crossing rivers, talk about crossing those barriers, talk about that tough stuff that defines you.
Well, it's so symbolic. I notice with the story of Jesus, everything is so physical and symbolic in retrospect when you see it. His baptism, so he goes in and John goes, forget it, I cannot. You are the Messiah, I'm not baptizing you. He goes, do it. So then you have to do it. And the heavens open, clouds part, the light comes streaming down, then a dove lands on his head, and a voice booms out of heaven, this is my son. And it's like, again, that would be a moment. If I saw that, I would have no doubts. But the next week, maybe. So he sees it. So he gets baptized. And the first thing that happens after the baptism, into battle. 40 days in that desert. I've been to that desert, and I've tried to survive in that desert for 2 days. And I did just about, barely. Like brutal hot, the Negev desert. It's not like nice desert with a few cactus around and this is barren rock desert, hard, one of the hottest places on earth. And he didn't go for 2 days. He went for 40. It's called battle. And he didn't just go for 40 days. He then had the devil on his shoulder throughout. Probably in person. Really giving him a hard time. You think we've had a hard time sometimes with some spiritual elements of battles in our life. He had it right, like, boom. At his weakest. So My point is like I said at the beginning, just when we find faith doesn't mean everything's going to be okay. If anything, prepare for battle. But here's the thing. Battle is not something to be scared about. Courage is walking towards the scary stuff. And there is only one army on the entire planet where the safest place to be is in the front line. Every other army you want to be, if you want to be safe. I mean, King David, he sent the guy to the front line to have the person killed. That's a dangerous place. You want to be safe, you're behind the enemy, you're behind home lines. That's a safe place. The Lord's army, the safest place to be is in the thick of battle, in that desert, on that front line, in this tent, side by side with great people, showing courage, showing heart, and determined to spread light when you go back to everyday life. It's called the front line, and it's your safest place to be.